The works we create are fleeting and the human ego eternally fragile, whether it be cities, kingdoms, or companies led by singular heroes. Hello, welcome to Tales Under the Cat Tree. I'm your host, Dupes. Each week, I pair a compelling piece of fiction or autobiography with bigger topics. Words create the worlds we live in, and stories provide a lens into understanding history, technology, or business by connecting personal narratives to the wider picture. Subscribe at tales.dupes.ca for more original writing and engaging interviews. I met a traveler from an antique land who said, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed, and on the pedestal these words appear. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains, round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare. The lone and level sands stretch far away." This is the poem Ozymandias by the great Percy Bysshe Shelley. In this episode of Tales Under the Cat Tree, I want to explore the human egos that build our cities, kingdoms, and companies. I read Ozymandias when I was 11 years old. The image of the broken civilizations that thought themselves eternal and invincible has stuck with me ever since. We humans think our worlds can never die, that our present continues into the future with ever-increasing greatness, and that we, as individuals, are fully in control. The reality is far different. So first, I will share an original short story that was inspired by Ozymandias called Look Upon Our Works and Despair, followed by a piece on how to become the company MVP. You might ask, is there really a connection between all these? Well, I will leave you to ponder that thought.
Look Upon Our Works and Despair, a short story. The city wasn't born yesterday. It wasn't even born a city. It began as a whisper of a thought that became a roar where a road marked a river crossing. That insistent idea sprouted arms that lengthened across the river and stretched its awakening all the way to a sea. The city crawled from idea to purpose. Its roots went deep to feed the vines, sprouting houses, shops, and people. As far-flung lands heard the city's boasts, their ships soared its harbor, their hulls bursting with the finest of goods. The city forded rivers, dried marshlands, and swallowed plains, and its eyes beheld nothing but abundance. No mountain or valley was too small a morsel for its forgers spewing forth the iron for its armies. The city walls grew in grandeur to protect its ideas, while golden-robed priests proclaimed its magnificence and mocked all others. The city's mighty works grew, and the majestic heart enshrined its glory in blinding monuments and transcendent temples to its own divinity. Yet, decay comes on slowly. A crack in a wall, unpolished gold on the roof, rust on iron swords. The rotten nests of high-born infections festered while centuries of children were sacrificed for a forgotten purpose. And so it was that the city never felt its approaching death as it labored to breathe against the noose of greedy palaces. The city never felt its extremities being burned away by bandits, never expected the abandonment of its worship, never understood the tumors of rebellion outside palace walls. The city was unprepared for its arteries to be drained, unprepared for the crowns floating away atop deposed heads, unprepared for defrocked priests, chained naked in its oaken spaces. The city didn't die yesterday. It didn't even dye a city. At first, it shriveled and dried in the baking sun. Then it sank under the marshes. All that remained were a few cracked monuments in a blighted landscape through which a river once flowed. And in the wind swirled a whisper of a thought.
Business leaders love to bring up sports teams as an analogy. It's pretty understandable. Sport is almost always a team endeavor, whether it's the team you see playing or all the support staff in the wings. Similarly, no one succeeds in business without a team. Sports has other aspects that we look to in business. The idea of a quote-unquote enemy, tactical and strategic planning, and the requirement for flawless execution. Such comparisons do, of course, naturally have caveats. Life is rarely 80-odd games capped by an annual championship run. But let us lean a bit more into this analogy and check out the role of an individual in a team sport and in business. In sport, the greatest MVP of all time for most people of my generation would be Michael Jordan of the Chicago Bulls. MVP, for those that don't know, stands for Most Valuable Player. His dominance as a player and personality at that specific point in time in the media is legendary. What is brought up more often than not in talking about Jordan is that he and the Bulls are a very good example of needing the right talent, the right coach, and the right organization. Without the right coaching staff and playing as a team, Jordan would never have become the winner that he did, as was proven so often early in his career. Business MVPs, whom we lionize in the media, include Steve Jobs, Sheryl Sandberg, and Bill Gates, to name but a few. The way we talk about tech leaders is not unlike historical personalities or sports personalities around whom events seem to spiral. In the 19th century, it was popular to assert that history swirled around heroes as well. A popular thought experiment posits, if you could prevent Hitler from being born, would World War II have happened? The great man theory, as it's called, would answer that yes, Hitler was the force of personality around which that particular war happened. Nowadays, we would argue that the list of variables is so immense that likely a world war at that time would have happened regardless of the birth of Hitler. Absolutely, the combatants might have had different outcomes. The atrocities might have been less or even more severe, but the situational context provides ample argument that the theory cannot simply be true. And yet, in business, as in sport, we still hang dearly, at least in the wider imagination, to the idea that success can only happen through single individuals like Elon Musk. We want that idea of a hero to be true. We are brought up on a steady diet of comic books and childhood fantasies, from Marvel to Harry Potter, where a small collection of the smartest and most powerful will save the day. With such a loud cultural presence, it's no wonder that we model ourselves after such constructs. Not only do we picture ourselves and strive to be such heroic figures, but we also manifest the wish to have heroes in our reality. We seek heroes in our schools, workplaces, and even in our families. Part of this is that we seek to create a connection with those we deem worthy and look up to. In my opinion, this need to seek and be heroic can lead to all sorts of group dysfunctions. My job as a business leader is to weed out so-called heroes and make every person an MVP. Despite short-term success, a company made of a couple heroes around whom everything revolves is a company that will fail, and fail hard. To put it bluntly, a quote-unquote hero is a single point of failure. In systems design, you want to build flows which do not come to a single point. For example, you don't want the majority of a country's power supply to go through a single remote switching station. I witnessed the outcomes of exactly that in Chile earlier this year. When I put it like this, I'm sure everyone laughs and says, yes, that's pretty stupid. But we all do these things all the time. Programmers can rely on a single database out of simplicity. Hospitals can rely on a single source of power. And individuals can live paycheck to paycheck with zero buffer. A disruption in any of these can cause a chain of failures, a lot of which we witnessed during the COVID-19 pandemic. We all create single points of failure due to the expectation that the patterns we observe will continue to behave without change. While the examples I just cited reflect systems design or behavioral patterns, all of these do apply to business and organization design. We all know the person in the company who knows the most about some arcane piece of technology like the speaker system, or who works hardest on a project. These are usually all single points of failure. Over the years, I've had any number of people tell me that their goal is to be the person everyone comes to. This, they say, gives job security. This, they say, makes them the MVP of their team and company. Frankly, that's total bullcrap. Instead of being an MVP, they are modeling themselves to be a danger to the organization. I'll outline 3 archetypes of such behavior. First, the knowledge base. This is the person who wants to be the central point of contact. You can immediately see that while this person thinks they are the MVP, they are a liability to the company when they get sick or go on holiday. This usually starts out as something very positive in the mind of the individual with a great dopamine rush whenever you are wanted. Over time, it degrades to a continual mental and emotional drain as the company or work scales. And eventually, those people burn out. You can spot these people when you see a single person doing an important function. As a leader, I want to build redundancy, which is not the same as saying hiring more people. Instead, I need to facilitate knowledge and experience transfer such that it is decentralized and easily available. Number 2, the martyr. I have played this role many times. This is the individual who does heroic work and rides to the rescue. They ask for no help and may even actively push back with comments such as, "I can do it faster." These can be your 10x coders, the ones who don't sleep for days and get things done. Don't get me wrong, individuals who step up are extremely valuable, and these individuals are often creative and can move mountains. You might not even understand their vision until whatever they are doing is done. They are absolutely MVPs with a big but. When it happens too often without involving others, then lots of dysfunction can arise. In such situations, they shut down diversity of thought and can stop others from even trying. For example, if Jane can save us once, then she can save us again. We fall into the trap of idolization and hero worship. And number 3, the Steve Jobs wannabe. This archetype is the manager or leader who must have the last word and have the final decision. They want to be seen as the decisive hero who drove the success. Sometimes they can be the leader who takes credit for their team's work and ideas. People can do this without thinking. It's hardly ever malicious, but the outcome is dysfunctionality. The team slowly becomes disempowered. If Joe always makes the decisions, then what do I care? Do I matter? A team might even start to think the reason is that this person has more information, and it might have the inverse effect of stopping them from bringing up new information. Usually this results in shallow decisions, and worse, great people will leave as they never get acknowledged for being an MVP. Despite my distaste for single points of failure, I too am a product of this culture. I do believe heroes are important, and there really are MVPs in an organization. However, if you want to create a limitless organization, the trick is to make sure everyone has a chance to become a hero, and that when they show some aspect of being a situational hero or MVP, that they or you do some of the following. Number 1, work in teams to disseminate information and experience so they build resilience. Have them become teachers rather than hoarders of knowledge. Number 2, when a person goes out to quote unquote save the day, which shows loyalty, ability, and often caring, make sure that there is a team and a plan. When you give kudos, give it to the wider players rather than to a single person. Number 3, when a manager or leader constantly says, "I drove something. I am the reason for something. It could be that the team reporting to this person might not be being elevated. Make sure you have conversations to unblock such problems before they become worse. We started by talking about how business leaders use sports as an analogy. Let me finish by describing my favorite MVP in sports when I was growing up obsessed with the NBA and the Chicago Bulls. My MVP was never Michael Jordan. He was for sure the finisher with agility and artistry second to none. My MVP and the person I wanted to be were his teammates with the most assists, the people who fed the ball to MJ so beautifully, the guy who grabbed the boards to get a second chance. I think the true MVPs of an organization are those that set others up for success, who teach and quiet the noise so others can deliver. They are the people asking the questions which lead to greater diversity in thought. I do acknowledge that I am a doer and a force of nature when I want to be, a martyr and then some. The MVP I have always sought to be is the great supporter. I am hoping that my personal positive tally is growing faster than the negative. And here I leave you with the final thought, which is a text a friend sent this past week. When your company is starving, the hero is not the one who goes and gets the fish. It's the one who teaches everyone to fish. This episode was again done while on the go, this time from St. John's, Newfoundland. Thank you to Mark and Angie for putting up with my shenanigans. My show notes this week contains the text of the poem Ozymandias, a link to look upon our works and despair so you can read it yourself, and also a link to how to become the company MVP. In that article, you will find an extra checklist that can help you see if you have any problems in your organization. Thank you for listening to another episode of Tales Under the Cat Tree. If you want more original stories and interviews, check out the archives wherever you listen to this podcast. We've covered topics and stories about immigration, artificial intelligence, Stalinist Russia, and otherization, to name but a few. If you have fiction writing you want to feature, or have an interesting story to tell, or know someone who does, please do get in touch with me. This podcast will always be free. Support our work by subscribing and sharing with those who might care. You can reach me through email, contact@dups.ca, bluesky@dups.ca, or on my Substack at tales.dupes.ca. The intro music is composed by me. Give your pet a cuddle and your loved ones a hug till we meet again for some tales under the cat tree.